You are welcome to the Messiah Revelation platform and Time Prophetic platform dedicated to awakening the Hebrews who are scattered over the world. Our message is a message of awakening the Negroes who are the Hebrews. If you permit me to use the word Negroes, because the Hebrews are being devalued. The identity has been stolen, has been suppressed, and they have been subjected to mockery, murder, mayhem. And today we are awakening the Negroes who are the Hebrews. And the reason for the awakening is simple. We have a divine responsibility to blow the trumpet to the Hebrews who are from A to Z. I did a video about the Abayudayas in Uganda and the Zachors in Timbuktu, A to Z. I'm using the metaphor again and to alert and to awaken you that the final trumpet of heaven has sounded based upon a vision given to me on August 27, 2013. The second coming of the Messiah is now, and it is our responsibility to prepare. Is coming to do the regathering of the Hebrews who are scattered over the world. Is coming to gather his elect, whether you go by Matthew 24 verse 31 or you go by Isaiah 11:11. I'm focusing mostly on Isaiah 11:11 is coming to do the regathering, is also coming to judge the world. And the prophecies are being fulfilled before our eyes. And the message today is a message of redemption and restoration for the Negroes who are the Hebrews. Don't let anybody deceive you. The Negroes are the Hebrews spoken of in the Bible from Abayudaya in Uganda to the Zachors in Timbuktu, from A to Z, from Babylon to Timbuktu, from Jerusalem to Timbuktu. You are a Hebrew by bloodline, and the bloodline is a benchmark of your Hebrew identity. Your Hebrewiness is not based upon conversion. Of course, the Ashkenazi converted to rabbinic Judaism, and they hold a Jewish card. But for the Negroes who are Hebrews, the true Hebrews, your identity is not based upon conversion. Your identity is based upon the bloodline. So if you are a Limba in Zimbabwe, you are an Abayudaya from Uganda, you are Zachor from Timbuktu, you are Igbo in Nigeria. Don't let anybody deceive you. Don't let any rabbi deceive you. Don't let any pastor deceive you. Don't let any preacher on the internet deceive you. Your Hebrew identity is not based on conversion. It's based upon bloodline. Of course, Apostle Paul said that there's no difference between Jews and Gentiles. But here we are saying that there are prophecies specifically associated with the Hebrews who were scattered over the world. And the prophecies are traceable to Genesis 15:13, verse 14. Somebody captured you and put you in captivity. Judgment is coming to the Gentiles who put you into captivity, and that is Genesis 15, judgment coming. And the prophet Moses also said that the Hebrews will be scattered by ships to Egypt again. And here there's a benchmark for you. The Negro, your ancestors were taken into captivity all over the world. And you will not gather yourself. Some people gathered themselves in 1948. They had the opportunity for politicians and prime ministers and billionaires to gather them, and they say they are gathered. But for the real Hebrew Israelites, the benchmark is that you will be out of possession of your holy city, and when Gentiles are trodden your city, you will be out of possession. Because this how prophecy goes in Luke 21:24. You will fall by the edge of the sword, and that is the sword of Caesar. And you also fall by the ship of Columbus, because your ancestors will go on slave ships. The ship of Columbus, who claimed to have discovered America, the New Egypt, where the ancestors of the Hebrew Israelites were put on slave ships and they were sent into captivity. The slave ships have their names. The Jesus of Lubbock, one of the slave ships owned by Queen Elizabeth I. Jesus of Lubbock, one of the slave ships, Lubbock, Jesus of Lubbock. And you also have the Zong, the slave ship, the Zong, also a British ship. The ship, you remember the ship is associated with massacre. The first time the word massacre came into prominence was in 1781, when a slave ship by name Zong, Z-O-N-G, taking Hebrew Israelites, Negroes from the Gold Coast, Ghana, the slave coast, heading towards Jamaica, and had an episode where over 130 Hebrew Israelites, Negroes, were thrown aboard into the ocean. And I want to remind you that the prophecy says the Hebrew Israelites will be scattered all over the world. And so when we're talking about Hebrew Israelites, we should not focus exclusively on Hebrew Israelites who are located in continental America, because you have to remember that they are the remnants, but they are remnants scattered all over the world. And so one way to identify the Hebrew Israelites is to look at the location of the scattering and the location of the gathering. And when I say the location of the scattering, I'm talking about the places where the Hebrew Israelites were scattered to. And when I'm talking about the location of gathering, I'm talking about the places from where the Hebrew Israelites will be gathered from. And I refer you to the prophecy that is specific on that issue. And that prophecy is the prophecy given by the Hebrew prophet Isaiah in Isaiah 11, verse 11. Elam, Cush, Patruf, Hamath, and the islands of the sea. Biblical scholars who know the Bible, they identify those places are places that are inhabited by Negroes, black people. And when you're talking about the islands of the sea, you're talking about the Jamaicans, you are talking about the Haitis, Dominican Republic. You are talking about St. Thomas and Croix. You're talking about Guyana. You're talking about places like the Seychelles Island. You're talking about the island of Madagascar in Africa. And those are the islands of the sea. And so when the Hebrew prophet Isaiah is talking about islands of the sea, the prophet knew what he was talking about. He was not talking about the Caucasus Mountain. He was not talking about the Ganges River. He was not talking about the Thames River. He was talking about the islands of the sea. The islands of the sea. 1900, the British forces captured the Asante city, Kumasi, and took Hebrew Israelites captives. The Asante king, Nana Trumpet, was taken into exile. So was the queen of Ashantis, Ya Asantua, the queen of Ejuso, Ya Asantua. They were taken captive and they were sent to Seychelles Island in Africa. The island was owned by England. And of course, England is the nation where the Queen Elizabeth, owned a slave ship, Jesus of Lubeck. That's the name of the slave ship owned by Queen Elizabeth, the first Queen of England. And so when we're talking about the Negroes who are the Hebrews, you identify yourself correctly because you know the ships that sent you into captivity, including Jesus of Lubeck, a slave ship owned by Queen Elizabeth the First. You also know the slave ship called Zong, Z-O-N-G, and as I said earlier, it is the ship that saw an episode, the massacre of 1781, where Negro slaves enslaved Negroes from the slave coast, from the Negro land. You can say from the kingdom of Judah, they were thrown aboard into sea. But it's not everybody who went into captivity, because the Lord made it clear by the mouth of the prophet Ezekiel that there will be a remnant. And so I would like to read the prophecy of the remnant from Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 8. Ezekiel 6, verse 8. Yet will I leave a remnant, that ye may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations, when ye shall be scattered through the countries. And so, whatever country you go to, they will persecute you, they will lynch you. The Negroes who are the Hebrews, they were lynched in America, and there were no federal laws protecting lynching of Negroes in America. And so, despite all the lynching and the murders and the genocides, the remnants are still in America, whether in Chicago, whether in Mississippi, whether in Alabama, in Baltimore, in Delaware, in North and South Carolina. The remnants are there because the prophet Ezekiel said, yes, will I leave a remnant, that ye may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations. The Negroes are the Hebrews, and you went by the sword because the prophecy said you go by the sword. And you're talking about Luke 21:24, when your Messiah told you, our Messiah, Yeshua, told you that the Hebrew Israelites will go by the sword. And you went through the sword of Caesar in Jerusalem when your holy city was captured. And since then, since that time, since AD 70, your city is trodden down by Gentiles holding LGBT flags in the holy city, because the Messiah said, the holy city, Jerusalem, from where you fled to Timbuktu, it will be trodden down of the Gentiles, and you go by the sword of the Caesars. And it was also prophesied that not only will you go by the sword of Caesar, you also go by the ships of Columbus, the slave ships of Columbus. And so Christopher Columbus, quote unquote, discovered the Egypt where the Hebrew Israelites will be scattered to. And the slave ships were ready. I will name only two. The one that I named, Jesus of Lubeck, owned by Queen Elizabeth, that took slaves from Africa to the lands of Egypt. And I also named the Zong, Z-O-N-G, also from England, that took slaves from the slave coast to the islands that are specified in the book of Isaiah 11:11. The time is coming for your gathering. The second coming of the Messiah is coming. And so this message is a message of hope, it's a message of redemption and restoration. You need to blow the trumpet that the second coming of the Messiah is at now. He's coming to gather the outcasts of Israel and the dispersed of Judah. And you are included. You, the Hebrew who are of the Abayudaya stock, and you, the Hebrews, you are who are of the Zachor stock in Timbuktu. And this message is not intended to leave anybody out, because our brother Zephaniah also talked about the Hebrew Israelites who in the last days will be accounted worthy to march to the Mount Zion to give their worship and their blessings to the God of the Hebrews, Elohim, and they will come from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. And beyond the rivers of Ethiopia are great rivers. The Nile River, that was used as a means of transportation, where the Gans in Ghana crossed and they entered into Africa. Where the Hebrews crossed, you see the Nile flowing in Egypt, flowing in Uganda, where you see the Abayudayas, you see the Zambezi River, you see the Congo River, where you see the Bantus, you see them, they are Hebrews, they will be gathered. And then you see the Igbos and the Yorubas along the banks of River Niger, the big river, the River Niger, which the nation Nigeria was named after the Niger River. Nigeria is from River Niger. So it's a big river in Africa. And the prophet Zephaniah is saying that the Hebrew Israelites will be gathered from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. And the rivers are there, the Zambezi, the Nile, the Volta in Ghana, and of course the River Niger in Nigeria. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, my worshippers, they will come and give their offering. And that is the prophecy, is the oracle of salvation to the Negroes, the black men and women who are the Hebrews. The prophet, your brother Zephaniah, the son of Cushi. Zephaniah 1 verse 1 says that he is the son of Cushi. And biblical scholars, all of them agree that Cushi means somebody from Cush, Ethiopia. So your brother Zephaniah is saying that there's an oracle of salvation for you. The Messiah will gather you from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. And that is the hope, is the message that I'm giving to you. It's a message of redemption and restoration. And regathering is also a message of judgment. You need to prepare so that you will be accounted worthy to stand in the presence of Elohim. Moses was found worthy to stand in the presence of Elohim. You need to be found worthy, and you need to practice holiness. You need to accept the Messiah. You need to purge yourself so that you will be counted worthy to be in the presence of the Messiah who is coming to gather you from Abayudaya in Uganda to the Zachor in Timbuktu. Thank you for watching this message. My email is raptureafrica@yahoo.com. I'm leaving it in the description box. It's a message of salvation. Blow the trumpet. The Negroes are the Hebrews. Don't let any evangelical, any pastor, any charlatan and demagogue to deceive you. Thank you for watching this video.